First contact. A cool spring morning greeted Captain Kate Monroe as she stared at the main screen aboard the Earth Defense Force vessel Horizon. The massive display showed something unprecedented. Hundreds of alien ships drifting silently in the outer reaches of the solar system, beyond Neptune's orbit. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. Lieutenant Roy Parker, her second in command, stood at attention. "All scans confirm non-terrestrial origin. We count approximately 3,000 vessels of varying sizes. No active weapons detected, but their technology is unlike anything we've encountered." Kate nodded. The Horizon had been dispatched immediately after deep space monitoring stations detected the anomaly. As Earth's most advanced exploration vessel, they were the logical choice for first contact. "Life signs?" she asked. Dr. Olivia Barnes, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her console. "Millions, Captain. But they're muted somehow, almost like they're in suspended animation. Most of the ships are operating on minimal power, just enough for basic life support." Communications Officer Jack Nelson suddenly straightened in his chair. "Captain, I'm receiving something. It's faint, but definitely artificial." The bridge crew fell silent as Jack worked his controls. "It's repeating on several frequencies. Not radio waves, something else. But it has a pattern. I think it's a distress signal." Kate moved to his station. "Can you decode it?" Jack shook his head. "Not yet. The language structure is completely alien. I've never seen anything like it." "Keep working on it," Kate ordered. "And maintain our distance for now." Hours passed as the Horizon carefully maneuvered closer to the alien fleet. The ships were enormous, the largest nearly 5 miles long with an unusual spiral structure. Their hulls gleamed with a bluish-purple metal unknown to Earth science. Jack's voice broke the silence. "Captain, I've made progress with the signal. Our eye has identified patterns consistent with mathematical constants. They're using math as a universal language." "Smart," Kate murmured. "What have they told us?" "They call themselves the Valkyrie," Jack explained, excitement building in his voice. "From what I can piece together, they've been traveling for centuries. Some kind of exodus. They've exhausted their fuel reserves, and their navigation systems failed. They drifted into our solar system by pure chance." Chief Engineer Sam Watson frowned at his readings. "That matches what I'm seeing, Captain. Their power signatures are nearly depleted. Most systems are offline or in emergency mode. So they're stranded," Kate said, thinking aloud. Security Chief Alan Wright wasn't convinced, or that's what they want us to think. This could be an invasion strategy. Appear helpless, get us to lower our guard. Kate considered this. Valid concern. But millions of lives are potentially at stake. "I've got more," Jack called out. "They're in some form of stasis. Their equivalent of cryosleep. Only a skeleton crew remains awake on each ship to maintain essential systems." Dr. Barnes nodded. "That would explain the unusual life sign readings." Kate made her decision. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made first contact with a non-hostile alien fleet in distress. Request instructions and prepare a first contact team." As the crew carried out her orders, Kate continued to study the alien ships. The universe had just become much larger, and Earth's response to this situation would define humanity's place in it. "What do you think they're like?" Roy asked quietly, joining her at the view screen. Kate watched as the distant sun reflected off the alien vessels. "I don't know, but they crossed the stars looking for a new home. In some ways, that makes them just like us." The Horizon moved carefully toward the largest vessel, a massive ship that likely served as the fleet's command center. Humanity's first deliberate encounter with alien life was about to begin. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber buzzed with tense voices. Representatives from every major Earth nation had gathered for an unprecedented meeting. On the central display, Captain Kate Monroe of the Horizon appeared via secure transmission, her report on the alien fleet having thrown Earth's leadership into chaos. We estimate over 5 million Valkyrie individuals in stasis across their fleet, Kate explained. Their commander, once we established basic communication, confirmed they fled their home system after some type of catastrophic event. Security Chief Alan Wright stood before the assembled leaders, his expression grim. While the aliens appear vulnerable, we must consider this could be an elaborate deception. A fleet that size could overwhelm Earth's defenses if hostile. I recommend extreme caution. The Security Council Chairwoman, Elena Diaz, nodded. Your concerns are noted, Chief Wright, but we need more perspectives. She turned to the next speaker. Chief Scientist Olivia Parker approached the podium, her data pad displaying scans from the horizon. The evidence strongly suggests the Valkyrie are genuinely in distress. Their ship shows significant degradation consistent with centuries of space travel. Power systems are failing systematically. Without intervention, we estimate complete life support failure within 2 months. Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives digested this information. Diplomatic liaison Maria Garcia spoke next. This represents an unprecedented opportunity. If we provide assistance, we could establish peaceful first contact with an advanced spacefaring civilization. Their technology appears centuries beyond our own. A beneficial alliance could advance human development dramatically. The Chinese representative leaned forward. And if they are hostile? Maria didn't hesitate. Then we would have shown the galaxy that humanity's first instinct was compassion, not fear. Engineering Director Sam Collins, who had been analyzing the alien technology, presented next. We believe we can adapt our fusion technology to power their ships, at least temporarily. It would require significant resources, but it's technically feasible. The chamber erupted into debate. Some nations feared the security risks, while others saw humanitarian or scientific opportunities. The Russian delegate warned of cultural contamination. The Indian representative spoke passionately about the moral obligation to help. President Laura Wilson of the North American Union finally stood, silencing the room. Throughout human history, we've faced moments that defined us as a species. This is one such moment. These beings crossed the stars only to become stranded on our doorstep. How we respond will reveal who we truly are. She paused, looking at each representative in turn. I propose Operation Lifeline, a carefully managed mission to provide emergency assistance while maintaining appropriate security protocols. The vote was close, but ultimately Earth's leaders chose to help. Captain Monroe received her new orders with a mix of relief and apprehension. You'll lead the operation, Captain, President Wilson told her. Establish contact, provide emergency assistance, but maintain security at all times. The first contact team will include scientists, engineers, medical personnel, and security forces. Back on the horizon, Kate briefed her crew. We'll approach with caution. First priority is establishing reliable communication. Then we assess their immediate needs and determine if assistance is feasible without risk to Earth. Lieutenant Roy Parker raised the question everyone was thinking. What happens if they wake up and don't like us? Kate looked at the alien fleet on the view screen. That's why we proceed carefully. But I believe helping them is the right choice. If our situations were reversed, we'd hope an alien civilization would do the same for us. As the Horizon prepared to dock with the Valkyrie command ship, Kate watched her crew prepare their equipment. The next few hours would change humanity's place in the universe forever. She only hoped Earth had made the right decision. The airlock hissed open as Captain Kate Monroe led the human first contact team aboard the Valkyrie command ship. They wore lightweight environmental suits as a precaution, though preliminary scans showed the atmosphere was surprisingly compatible with human needs. Remember, we're guests here, Kate reminded her team. No sudden movements. Let Lieutenant Foster take the lead on communication. The interior of the alien vessel was unlike anything they had imagined. The corridors were hexagonal, lined with a material that resembled mother of pearl, but felt like metal to the touch. Soft blue light pulsed through vein-like patterns on the walls. Lieutenant Daniel Foster, the team's xenolinguistics expert, studied his translation device. The main control center should be ahead. Their language uses tonal shifts we can barely hear, but the AI is adapting quickly. Chief Engineer Natalie Kim marveled at the technology surrounding them. These systems are incredible. Look at these power conduits. They're using principles we've only theorized about. As they rounded a corner, they encountered their first conscious Valkyrie. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with an iridescent exoskeleton that shifted colors as it moved. 4 arms extended from a slender torso, and compound eyes dominated its face. The human team froze. Daniel stepped forward slowly, his device emitting a series of clicks and whistles. The alien's head tilted, then it responded with similar sounds. "I think it's working," Daniel whispered. "I'm telling them we're here to help." More Valkyrie appeared, their movements graceful despite their insect-like appearance. One wore elaborate markings that seemed to indicate authority. "That must be Fleet Commander Zyktar," Kate said, "the one they revived when we made contact." Daniel's translation became clearer as the AI learned. "They're asking why we've come aboard. They seem suspicious." Kate stepped forward, speaking clearly for the translator. "We detected your distress signal. We want to help your people." The translation device converted her words into Valkyrie sounds. Commander Zyktar's exoskeleton flashed deep blue, a warning sign, according to their limited understanding of Valkyrie body language. The translated response came back. "Why would you help those you do not know? What do you seek in return?" "A fair question," Kate admitted. "We seek friendship and knowledge. Our species has never met intelligent life from beyond our world." The Valkyrie officers chittered among themselves, clearly skeptical. One made a sudden movement toward Natalie, who flinched and raised her scanner defensively. Instantly, the Valkyrie produced metallic objects that Daniel's translator identified as weapons. "Easy, easy," Kate called out, raising her empty hands. "We mean no harm." Tense moments passed until Dr. Lisa Owens noticed one of the Valkyrie officers favoring an upper limb. Despite the standoff, she slowly opened her medical kit. "That one is injured," she said quietly. "Daniel, ask if I can help." Daniel translated, and after hesitation, Commander Zyktar allowed Lisa to approach the injured officer. Using her medical scanner, she identified a fracture in the exoskeleton and applied a regenerative compound that helped seal the crack. The injured Valkyrie's colors shifted to a gentle green as the pain subsided. It made a musical sound that needed no translation. Gratitude is universal. Commander Zyktar's posture relaxed slightly. "Perhaps we misjudged your intentions," came the translation. "Our journey has been long, and we have learned caution." Kate nodded. "We understand. Trust must be earned. May we show you how we might help restore power to your ships?" Zyktar considered this, then made a gesture of agreement. "Show us. But know that the fate of our entire species rests within these vessels. We will protect them at any cost." As the human team followed the Valkyrie deeper into the ship, Kate realized the most difficult part of their mission had just begun. Building trust across the gulf of different worlds would require more than technology. It would demand understanding hearts that beat beneath very different exteriors. Senior physicist Greg Martinez floated in zero gravity inside the Valkyrie engine room, his face illuminated by the soft glow of his tablet. After 3 days of intensive study, he finally understood the fundamental problem facing the alien fleet. "It's not just that they're out of fuel," he explained to Captain Kate Monroe through his comlink. "They use a substance they call deuterium, an element we don't even have in our periodic table. It powers everything from propulsion to life support." Kate frowned. "Can we synthesize it?" "Not in the quantities they need, but I think we can adapt our fusion technology to work with their systems. It won't be as efficient, but it could save their people." Back on Earth, humanity had mobilized its industrial capacity at unprecedented speed. Factories worldwide were producing emergency power cells and adapters designed by the joint human-Valkyrie engineering team. Every major nation contributed resources to Operation Lifeline. Inside the command center of the Horizon, Chief Engineer Natalie Kim struggled to make human technology interface with alien systems. Their computer architecture is completely different from ours, she explained to Commander Zyktar, who watched with all four arms folded across his chest. It's like trying to connect modern electronics to ancient steam engines. The Valkyrie commander's exoskeleton rippled with blue patterns, a sign of concern they had learned to recognize. Without proper power distribution, the stasis chambers on the outer vessels will fail first. Thousands will die. I won't let that happen, Natalie promised, though she wasn't sure how she would keep that promise. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A young Valkyrie engineer named Tickle approached Natalie with diagrams showing how their ancestors had powered ships before discovering Vaterium. Seeing the similarities to early human fusion attempts, Natalie realized they could bridge the technological gap. As a gesture of growing trust, the Valkyrie began sharing other technological knowledge. Their medical techniques were centuries beyond Earth's, and their understanding of gravitational physics revealed principles that human scientists had never considered. Not everyone welcomed this exchange. Colonel Frank Walsh, commanding the security detail, watched the cooperation with growing suspicion. In private communications with certain Earth officials, he argued that humanity should focus on acquiring Valkyrie technology, rather than saving the aliens. This is the opportunity of a millennium, he told his small circle of like-minded officers. Their navigation data alone could give us the stars. While Walsh plotted, the situation aboard many Valkyrie ships grew desperate. Power systems were failing faster than predicted. Life support on 23 vessels had dropped below critical levels, threatening nearly 40,000 sleeping Valkyrie. Pilot Sofia Rodriguez led the most dangerous missions, navigating her shuttle through the densely packed alien fleet to deliver emergency power generators to the most vulnerable ships. The massive vessels dwarfed her tiny craft, and a single miscalculation could mean disaster. Approaching target vessel, she reported during her 6th mission. This one's bad, exterior lights already failing. Inside the dying ship, Valkyrie emergency crews waited anxiously. When Sofia docked and transferred the human power cells, they worked with desperate speed to install them. Power restoration at 30%, came the report. Stasis chambers stabilizing. You saved them, human. Back on the command ship, Kate received troubling news. Sensors detected unusual activity in Earth orbit. Military vessels from several nations moving into defensive positions. Some people back home are getting nervous, Roy explained. Having 1 million aliens show up tends to do that. Commander Zyktar, learning of this development, approached Kate. Your people fear us, even as you help us. Kate nodded honestly. Some do. Change is always frightening. Then we must succeed, the Valkyrie commander said, for both our people's sake. As they spoke, neither realized that Colonel Walsh had gained access to the Valkyrie database, downloading technical specifications for their most advanced weapon systems. The explosion rocked the docking bay with such force that Captain Kate Monroe was thrown against the bulkhead. Alarms blared throughout the horizon as emergency crews rushed to contain the damage. Report, she shouted into her comm, struggling to her feet. Lieutenant Roy Parker's voice came through, strained with urgency. Sabotage, Captain. Someone rigged the power transfer station with explosives. 3 of our crew injured, and we've lost the main distribution hub for the Valkyrie power cells. Kate's blood ran cold. Without that equipment, they couldn't deliver power to the remaining alien ships fast enough to prevent catastrophic failures. Across the fleet, red alerts flashed as life support systems began shutting down on dozens of vessels. The carefully organized rescue plan was now in shambles. Commander Zyktar burst into the control room, his exoskeleton flashing angry crimson patterns. What has happened? Our monitors show power failures spreading throughout the outer fleet. Before Kate could respond, Security Officer Jordan Blake appeared with damning evidence on his tablet. "Captain, we've identified the saboteurs. It was Colonel Walsh and his team. They've stolen a shuttle and are heading toward the Valkyrie science vessel. They're after your technological database," Kate told Zektar grimly. "I'm sorry. I should have seen this coming." The Valkyrie commander's response was unexpected. Rather than anger, his voice carried resignation. "We have encountered such betrayals before. It is why many of my warriors recommended destroying your ships when you first approach. On 3 of the outer Valkyrie ships, emergency stasis pods began failing as power levels dropped below sustainable thresholds. Thousands of sleeping aliens faced imminent death. Worse, the Valkyrie warriors who had been in deep stasis were automatically awakening in response to the crisis. Programmed to protect their species at all costs, they emerged confused and ready to fight. "We need to tell them we're not responsible," Kate insisted. "Your warriors will attack my people if they think we caused this." Zektar made a decision that would change everything. He broadcast directly to his awakening warriors, explaining the human rescue attempt and Walsh's betrayal. Then he did something unprecedented. He showed the warriors footage of human engineers working alongside Valkyrie to save their ships. "Captain Monroe," he said, turning to Kate, "you must prove your intentions now. Help us save those outer ships, or my warriors will not believe my words." Chief Medical Officer Ben Harper was already organizing emergency teams. "We need to stabilize the critically ill Valkyrie who are emerging from failed stasis pods. Their physiology is complex, but I've been studying their medical technology." As human and loyal Valkyrie teams raced to the failing ships, Earth's long-range sensors detected a new threat. A massive solar flare erupting from the sun, sending a wave of deadly radiation toward the fleet. "The flare will hit us in 4 hours, Roy reported. "Our ships can withstand it, but many of the damaged Valkyrie vessels can't." Kate faced an impossible choice: continue the emergency power restoration, or try to move the entire fleet behind Jupiter for protection. Either way, lives would be lost. "We do both," she decided. "Split our resources and broadcast to Colonel Walsh. Tell him if he doesn't return that shuttle, that flare will kill him too." On one of the failing ships, human engineer Louis Gomes worked frantically alongside Valkyrie technicians to reroute power from non-essential systems. When the ship suddenly lurched, nearly throwing them into a wall of machinery, a Valkyrie warrior caught Louis before he could be crushed. "Why do you risk yourself for us?" the warrior asked, compound eyes studying the human with confusion. Louis continued working as he spoke. "Because that's what my people do. The best of us, anyway." As Kate coordinated the massive effort to save the fleet, she received a transmission from Earth. The sabotage had divided humanity's leaders, but President Wilson's message was clear. "Save them, Captain. Show the stars what humanity truly stands for." The main engineering lab aboard the Horizon hummed with activity as human and Valkyrie scientists worked side by side. After weeks of collaboration, they stood around a pulsing device that represented their greatest hope. "It works," engineer Kevin Ramirez said, his voice barely containing his excitement. "The fusion catalyst is stable and producing power compatible with Valkyrie systems." Beside him, Valkyrie technician Selnav's exoskeleton rippled with patterns of gold, their expression of joy or triumph. "Your fusion technology combined with our resonance fields creates something neither of our species could have developed alone." Captain Kate Monroe and Commander Zektar observed from the doorway, both leaders exhausted but relieved. The past week had tested both their peoples to their limits. The solar flare had damaged 12 Valkyrie vessels, despite their best efforts to position the fleet behind Jupiter. Colonel Walsh had been captured, but not before transmitting partial Valkyrie weapon schematics to unknown recipients on Earth. Despite these challenges, they had managed to stabilize the fleet. No more Valkyrie had died since the crisis began. "Your engineers are remarkable," Zektar commented. "They understand concepts it took my people generations to discover." Kate smiled slightly. "Humans are good at adapting." It's how we'd survived. A communication officer interrupted them. Captain, Earth's United Council is ready for the briefing. On the main view screen, the assembled leaders of Earth appeared. President Wilson spoke first. Captain Monroe, please share your assessment of the situation. Kate stood straight, aware that her words would shape humanity's future. The immediate crisis has been resolved. The Valkyrie fleet is stable, and we've developed a sustainable power solution, but they cannot continue their journey. Their ships are too damaged from centuries of travel. What are you suggesting? The Chinese representative asked cautiously. That we offer them sanctuary in our solar system, at least temporarily. The Kuiper Belt has abundant resources they could use to rebuild. The room erupted in debate. Security concerns were raised. Economic impacts were questioned. The Russian delegate worried about technological transfers upsetting Earth's power balance. During the heated discussion, Valkyrie historian Mestal approached the screen. If I may address your concerns, the elderly alien said. This is not the first time our peoples have met. Silence fell as the historian displayed ancient Valkyrie records showing images remarkably similar to Earth's pyramids and other ancient structures. 20,000 of your years ago, the Valkyrie exploration vessel visited your world. They found primitive humans struggling to survive. They provided some guidance, which your ancestors recorded in their myths and monuments. Human historians on the call began furiously checking references as Mestal continued. We did not interfere directly, but our visit left impressions that appear in many of your ancient cultures. We have always wondered what became of the promising species we discovered. Now we know. You reached the stars on your own. This revelation changed the tone of the discussion. If the Valkyrie had visited Earth before and left peacefully, perhaps they truly meant no harm. Meanwhile, back on Earth, news of the alien fleet had sparked both fear and fascination. Protests formed in some cities, with signs reading Earth for Humans and Alien Threat, but many more people gathered in support of helping the stranded visitors, holding candlelight vigils, and collecting resources to send to the rescue effort. Engineer Kevin Ramirez and Selnav continued refining their power solution, forming an unlikely friendship despite their profound differences. In my culture, Kevin explained as they worked, we have stories about building bridges between people. I never thought I'd be building one between worlds. Zelnav's translator conveyed his response. My people have a saying. The stars separate all beings, but wisdom unites them. As the Earth's council debated, Kate and Zyktar knew the real work of bringing their peoples together had only just begun. But watching humans and Valkyrie working side by side, they shared something neither had expected to find in this crisis: hope. 6 months after first contact, the scene in Earth's solar system had transformed dramatically. The Valkyrie fleet, once drifting powerless beyond Neptune, now occupied carefully plotted orbits from Mars to the Kuiper Belt. Their massive ships had become small cities, bustling with activity as both species worked together. Captain Kate Monroe stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity station, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The space station, built using a combination of human and Valkyrie technology, represented the most ambitious joint project between the two species. Quite a view, said a familiar voice. Commander Zyktar joined her, his exoskeleton shimmering with peaceful blue patterns. Sometimes I still cannot believe our journey ended here. Kate smiled. Not ended, just changed direction. Progress had moved at an astonishing pace. Valkyrie medical knowledge had led to treatments for several previously incurable human diseases. Their understanding of gravitational fields had revolutionized Earth's space travel capabilities. In return, humanity had offered the aliens a new home and fresh resources to rebuild their civilization. The transition hadn't been perfectly smooth. Earth still had factions that feared the alien presence. Several nations maintained enhanced military readiness, despite growing evidence of Valkyrie peaceful intentions. Perhaps most surprising was the unlikely partnership that had formed between Colonel Frank Walsh and Valkyrie Security Chief Vrechtol. After Walsh's capture and trial, he had been sentenced to work directly with the Valkyrie as part of his rehabilitation. Initially hostile, Walsh had gradually developed respect for the aliens he once feared. "They think differently than us," Walsh had told Kate during their last meeting. "But they value family, sacrifice, and honor just like we do. I was wrong about them." Now Walsh and Vrechtel jointly led a security team focused on building trust between humans and Valkyrie. Their shared experiences had made them effective ambassadors between cultures that still struggle to understand each other. On the Moon, the first permanent human-Valkyrie community had taken shape. The lunar colony housed 5,000 humans and nearly 800 Valkyrie, working together on scientific and cultural projects. Tourists from Earth waited months for permission to visit the settlement, eager to meet their new galactic neighbors. "The Council has approved your proposal," Kate told Zyktar as they watched a supply ship dock with the station. "The Valkyrie will have permanent settlement rights in the Kuiper Belt, with established trade routes to Earth and Mars." Zyktar made the gesture that humans had learned meant gratitude. "My people will remember Earth's kindness for generations. Our historians are already recording this as the beginning of our Renaissance." Below them on the main deck, final preparations were underway for the dedication ceremony. Representatives from every Earth nation would join Valkyrie leaders to officially open Unity Station. The facility would serve as a diplomatic center, research hub, and cultural exchange point between the species. Engineer Kevin Ramirez and Valkyrie technician Selnav stood nearby, putting final touches on the ceremonial lighting system they had designed together. "Do you think your ancestors knew this would happen when they visited Earth thousands of years ago?" Kevin asked his alien colleague. Zelnav's translator conveyed his thoughtful response. "Perhaps they saw potential in your species, the same potential we see now." As dignitaries began arriving for the ceremony, Kate reflected on how much had changed in just 6 months. Humanity had faced its greatest test, not one of military might, but of compassion and wisdom. They had chosen to help rather than fear, to learn rather than conquer. President Wilson approached Kate with a medal in hand. "Captain Monroe, you and your crew will go down in history alongside our greatest explorers and diplomats." Kate accepted the honor with humility. "We just did what humans do best, Madam President. We adapted, we helped, and we grew." As the ceremony began, Kate noticed human and Valkyrie children watching from a viewing area, pointing excitedly at the stars. One human girl stood hand in hand with a young Valkyrie, both looking outward toward distant suns. In that moment, Kate knew the true success of their mission wasn't measured in technology exchange or treaties signed, but in the promise of a future where two very different peoples would explore the cosmos together.